Yo. This is Disruptive Thought. I'm Rashad Harvey. He's Aaron Thomason.
I am.
We're here to talk to you about what's going on in the world, entertainment, politics, religion. We're here to talk about it all. What's good, man?
Hey, listen, man. Let's jump off and give people an apology. We basically ghosted y'all for a full week with no explanation. 100% ghost, like a bad date. No explanation. You thought the relationship was going well. Then all of a sudden you got the wrong number. Maybe somebody gave you 777-9311. You know, you don't know, but we were not on the air, as you noticed last week. There was no pre-production. Yours truly's life got in the way, doing some traveling for some very special events. And, then what we had to fill in didn't work. So our lives got in the way, people. Hey.
Happens to the best of us. You don't want to add that? You don't want to add that part that it happens to the best of us?
Nah, I think that's an excuse. That's an excuse.
Is lives got in the way not an excuse?
No, that was I told the truth. It's a reason. You're trying to feel better about it by saying it happens to the best of us. I'm not trying to feel better about it.
Cedric, go ahead and bring us on in.
You know, this ain't nothing but healthy conversation. That's all.
I don't know what we're supposed to do right now, because normally right here, we would have comments. We don't have any comments, but we can say we're back at it again.
Gosh, back at it again.
We back at it again.
We have no comments because we didn't do a show last week. So I don't know what we're getting ready to go into, other than the fact that, hey, good people, we're going to try to do better next time our lives get in the way to make sure that we at least inform you what's going on. Because we appreciate you rocking with us the whole time, even through the pandemic, for hanging out with us, your boys, every week on Tuesdays. We dropped the ball. But here, pre-production every Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern. As it stands right now, our lives aren't in the way. So we'll be back with you on 8 p.m. Eastern on Instagram Live. Come check us out at Rashad Harvey, at Aaron Vic 810, and at Disruptive Thought. So, good people. Hopefully we have you all chime in next week. Had a couple people checking in on us to see if they missed anything. It was not a technical glitch. It was all us.
Shout out to Woods doing our pre-production this week. He gave us this.
See Woods from Our 2 Cents podcast.
Yep, he gave us this story, and I ended up looking into it, and I thought it was a good conversation to have. The timeline I'm kind of sketchy on, but sounds like it's been within the past 3 years in which the previous head coach of the Florida Gators women's basketball team was being accused of some rough tactics with, and more so not intimacy abuse or anything like that, but more so of a mental abuse, maybe a little bit of physical if you talk about maybe a few throwing of basketballs. But there was a young lady who came out and expressed abuse from the head coach. She was a freshman. And that kind of sounds like the ball started dropping of more people coming out as this coach was there for, I want to say, 4 years. But they expressed some abuse, that this coach was very hard on them. Sounds like a little bit of hazing was going on, not only on the court, but also off the court when he would see them around campus and things like that. So much so, one player at the end of a season was asked to sit, come in for a meeting. She sat down, and upon being sat down at a huge table with all of the coaches on one side and she was on the other, she was a little bit berated and asked to sign some release papers as she was being kicked off of the team. And basically he was telling her, you're not going to get any playing time. So go ahead and sign these release papers so we don't have to deal with you or deal with any of this conversation, even though she was due a scholarship and obviously tuition and, to have her bills paid for her to attend Florida. So with that being said, her mother ended up coming out and speaking about some of the abuse that her daughter went through. And I think this is a good conversation because all too often we look at athletes as glorified entertainers. And that includes, well, not glorified, excuse me. We look at college and high school entertainment. Let me be specific because the NBA is entertainment. But when you talk about high school, AAU, as well as college, we look at these people as glorified entertainers, and we don't empathize with the things that they deal with because of the trajectory they might be on, whether it be to make millions of dollars or go play overseas. But these athletes, they deal with a lot. They have a lot to a lot of stressors and things that they have to deal with. So AT, my question to you as someone who was a college athlete, what are your thoughts on some of the abuse or some of the difficulties that comes with a child, which when you started playing basketball, you was a child, that you have to deal with navigating relationships with coaches who might be tough, talk to you like you a grown adult, but you 15, you 14 or whatever the case may be, and having to maintain that relationship or relationships like it until, you play college basketball at one of the highest levels.
Well, I think you got to look at the issue. And the bigger issue is coaches have to adjust to the generation. Mm-hmm. My generation, they talk to you like you was crazy. Like, let's just call you everything but a child of God. But that was just part of the norm. You had guys like your Bobby Knights, in college, and right. He was very successful. So a lot of coaches, especially in the city, kind of took that way of coaching. But then also at the same time, they also were a little bit tougher, I believe, if I'm extending grace, is because growing up in Detroit at the time, and there's a TV show on right now on Stars called BMF. It just talks about, the very tough neighborhoods and the drug crack epidemic that was going on in Detroit at the time. So it really was about discipline and accountability. And they didn't care about your feelings because they knew it was about your life. Mm-hmm. And so, it's difficult. Because if you don't come from a family that they talk to you like that, when you hear a coach talking to you like he crazy, if that ain't what you used to, then you got to make a decision. Do I maintain this relationship and play ball because I love the game so much? Or do I just say, man, the heck with this, I'm out? And I know a lot of guys that actually didn't play, at my high school because they just couldn't take my coach. And my coach was a lot to deal with.
Mm-hmm. I feel like when it comes to whether it's athletes or movie stars, musicians, and even now when we talk about this current climate, when you talk about people of faith or people of certain political affiliations, we often try to find something about a category of people to dismiss a real issue. So when you talk about athletes, we've heard a lot about athletes coming out, whether it's Russell Westbrook, it's OBJ, Allen Iverson at one point. We hear a lot about athletes, LeBron saying, hey, we appreciate the check that we get, but this don't warrant people to be talking to us crazy. Jalen Rose had a huge story when he did his 30 for 30 with the Fab Five, that he talked about the incident he got into when he was in college and what was said at I want to say it was an Illinois game. Why don't we protect people? And I know that's a broad question, but when we talk about these college athletes, like, you done did it. We played high school as well. Things are said crazy, and I'm sure we both done been in some gyms where we was curious how we was gonna get up out them gyms. But why do we create these environments and are surprised when we hear stories like this coach, or we see fans like what Russell Westbrook seems like he's been dealing with the last 5 years? Why are we surprised when we see these things? And on top of that, why do we villainize athletes who say, you know what, I want to be compensated for my likeness, not only because I feel like I deserve it, but also some of these things I'm dealing with off the court when you talk about these fans and certain obligations they're supposed to uphold to? Why do we not value their experience?
So clearly, us being off for a week, this brother don't know how to ask questions no more, because he asked about 4 questions in one question.
Oh, no. That's how I asked. You ain't got a pen? You ain't got no paper?
This man then went 3-4 different ways that don't have nothing to do with what we talking about. The only thing that's consistent, that's consistent, you have an ADHD right now. The only thing that's consistent is athlete. Everything else is all over the board. So let me see if I can address, excuse me, a couple of these things. One, I do believe you got to, again, I'm going to go back to generational. Bobby Knight didn't ultimately get up out of Indiana with his abuse until video cameras started capturing it and it started becoming public. But before then, Bobby Knight was rumored, the legend of him was doing all that other stuff, but him throwing chairs, they had that on tape. But then they had it on tape, him grabbing a kid and grabbing him by the throat. And they saying, hey, in this day and age, we can't do that. So I do think exposure breeds a different level of accountability, right? When we talk about abuse towards the players, we talked about the unfortunate Maryland case where the kid died of a heat stroke on the football field, based on stuff like that. So again, these are not old tactics. You can go back and look at, odd tactics. You go back and look at a movie like Glory Road, or you look at a movie like Remember the Titans. Like these are the techniques that the old guard used to use. And up until recently, they would still use that because the generation just kind of did it to play. Now in this more exposure, we care about your feelings generation, you can't talk to the players like that. So you look at guys like Calipari, you look at Coach K, it's just last year. You look at Roy Williams, you look at some of these old school coaches that they actually have still been successful, but they've had to adjust how they coach. They've had to adjust how they recruit. Even at Tom Izzo, he's had to adjust. And when you have to adjust because this generation's parents gave them something different, so based on giving them something different is where you hear the name, image, and likeness starting to come into play. And hey, we got to hold people accountable for not treating these individuals as human beings. And yes, I am a human being that though you may be entertained, but you still don't deserve the right to disrespect me. Now, again, in an era in which we're trying to neutralize or to allow for racism to be more so in the background as opposed to the forefront, is when you see somebody like a Bill Russell. When you saw somebody like a Bill Russell, well, Bill Russell had to deal with racism all the time, even in his hometown where he was playing for the Boston Celtics. So again, this isn't odd that fans are disrespectful, even to the point that they're attacking people's humanity. But I think is more exemplified or exasperated for people to pay attention to because we have so many ways to be able to view abuses and information.
You see how you tied that together? I know. I just threw the alley up for you to catch it.
Yeah, that's only
you 6'6", right?
That's only because I got a 40. I went and got that thing, but that was a bad pass.
But the other thing too, not to keep harping on this, but you think about what took place with the gymnasts. I feel like we just, unfortunately, man, these athletic situations, especially when you talk about coaches holding the keys to a lot of people's successes, it just creates a dynamic that, I'm thankful for these times for people to be addressing and for hopefully them to get cleaned up so that people no longer are physically, but also no longer mentally abused, at least to a certain degree, right? Because this is a competitive sport, so it's going to have its stressors. This week, Media Day, NBA Media Day. I would say, we could go ahead and say NBA update. So this week, a lot of media days took place where players take photos and they get interviewed. A lot of the new players, upcoming season, what's the expectations? How you feeling about this new edition? All that good stuff. And one of the key conversations that was being had was vaccines. There are players who are not vaccinated who play in states where it is mandatory that you be vaccinated in order to be inside of a building over so many people, particularly teams in New York as well as California. There are others, but just for the sake of conversation. So you got players that play for these teams in these states, which would mean if they stay unvaccinated, half of the season guaranteed they can't play because of home games. So the conversation was being had about, specifically like your Kyrie Irvings, Andrew Wiggins at one point in time. Come find it sounds like he might have gotten the vaccine, but I'm sure there are other players. Kyrie and Andrew are probably just the biggest names, where a lot of people and pundits were talking down. Like, hey, if you don't want to play basketball and you're not going to get the vaccine, then, you need to be fined, which they talked about doing for every game that players don't play that are unvaccinated. They'll be fined, as well as it sounded like a lot of old school players were just very frustrated with these new school guys who were contemplating things that would jeopardize or harm the team, from a availability standpoint. Shaq came out and spoke out against that. And I ain't going to hold you up. Stephen A., he spoke out a lot about it. I was very disappointed in the both of them. Which don't mean nothing. They are who they are, and they millionaires. But I was disappointed as much as they seem. Shaq and Stephen A. particularly, man. I feel like they took roles early on where they were uncles. Black men, successful black men, wanted to give good advice, and I feel like over time they've gotten very critical of the athlete and what they deal with and what they are contemplating. And And so I was disappointed to hear both of their takes saying, you know, players who do not get vaccinated, you know, they need to quit or the team need to be able to let them go. And, you know, I wouldn't want them on my team. AT, what was your thoughts on what you was hearing about some of these players that are unvaccinated at the moment and their season possibly being in jeopardy?
Man, I'm always going to be right to choose. That never changes for me, right? So again, people want to feel like you're forcing me into something that I don't want to do. No, you actually still have the right to be a free agent, right?
Yeah.
So again, you got to count up the cost. Andrew Wiggins said, hey, it ain't worth it to me. I'm going to go and get vaccinated so I can keep getting this max check. Okay, cool. That's his decision. Kyrie Irving, like, look, I don't care nothing about showing up to media day. I don't care nothing about practicing at the crib. I'm not doing it. And y'all not going to make me do it. Now, me and my brother had a conversation. The bigger question with Kyrie is, do you still really want to play? Because the last couple of years, we've been questioning, does he even really want to play? Kyrie, one of them dudes that's been playing the last couple of years, like, hey, I'm going to play if I guess kind of got the itch and just to remind y'all, I got the goods. But I don't know that he really, really wants to play. So again, but it's his right to choose. And, you know, I'm not mad at that. If that's what he chooses to do, hey, you know, you stand for what you believe in. I mean, you talked about on pre-production, you know, it's blasphemous as it was that you're sick of, you know, Ali documentaries, but Muhammad Ali.
I didn't say I was sick of it. Stop. Don't be rude. I didn't say I was sick of it. No, I said I'm good on Ali documentaries.
You said I'm Ali out.
Okay, that don't mean I'm sick of it. That's a totally different vein.
That's sick of it. You just didn't like the language I use. It's the same though.
I didn't like the language you used because it's not what I said.
Yeah, that is what you said.
I think anybody would be upset with that.
Yeah, it is what you said. I'm Ali'd out documentaries. That means you're sick of them right now. So again, but Muhammad Ali again made a decision. I'm not going to the draft regardless of what it costs me, and I'm gonna stand on my beliefs. Hey, right to choose, right? That's why you live in the United States of America. You have the right. Now, when you make that decision, you then have to navigate the consequences and repercussions based on the action. Kyrie's is like, I got plenty of money, man. I ain't worried about that. Okay, cool, no problem. But again, I can't be mad at the Shaqs. And I think the vaccination with Kyrie is just another issue over the last couple of years where I don't even think, me personally, I probably will be on the side of Shaq, not because of the vaccination, but because Kyrie's becoming a headache. Like, yo, get this dude up out of here. Like, we don't have time to keep dealing with this. He's been a distraction the last 2 years. You know, he leaves with no rhyme or reason. He shows up violating the protocol. Then the dude can't stay healthy. No, man, get this dude up out of here. He's just not reliable. Like, that's just the point. He's just not reliable. So it's interesting. You know, but Bradley Beal, he's still not vaccinated, but he's in DC where it's not a big deal.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to talk about Kyrie and whether he wants to play or not. I feel like that's on him. And if he's got a relationship with a team that allows him to do what he's been doing, shout out to them. I understand it being a headache to a Shaq, but at the same time, Shaq don't own no team. So Kyrie get to do what he want to do because of the relationship he got with the team he got. And that's something that's special. So you just got to mind your business. I just think when you get to talking about people who, as you just said, the right to choose. I love what Draymond Green said. I love what Jonathan Isaac said. And I just think that we in the midst of getting back to normalcy, we kind of lose the humanity in how we're treating people. But that's something that's been going on for a while now. So shout out to Kyrie.
But this vaccination, I don't think it's a lack of humanity piece. Is if there's anything you can say, the NBA is inconsistent with their rules, but Kyrie in particular, if we just go basketball, regardless of the reason, he has not been reliable. Just take his health.
Yeah, okay.
Let's just take his health.
Keep smoking, but Kyrie's not the. And I don't want to. This ain't a segment on Kyrie because the same thing was said about Bradley Beal, and the same thing was said more so about Andrew Wiggins. They said the same thing about Andrew Wiggins.
But again, and I was with them with Andrew Wiggins. Hold on, sir, you're not good enough. Like, so what you're saying is I don't know what I'm saying because you just cut me off. But go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's
No,
on you.
go ahead. Yes.
No, I'm listening to you. Yeah. Okay. So what we're saying is your production dictates whether we allow you to hold out for this vaccine or not.
See, here's again. This part of this wrong with your generation. This is business. This ain't got nothing to do with your feelings. So again, Kyrie and Bradley Beal. Okay, there used to be an old thing on Sesame Street. One of these kids is doing their own thing. One of these kids just doesn't belong. Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Andrew Wiggins. Which one of them don't belong in that conversation?
I think that.
Huh?
I don't just. Mm-hmm.
Which one of them don't belong in that conversation? When we talk about basketball players' production and what they've done in the league. Andrew
Kyrie.
Wiggins. Are you serious?
Kyrie the only one with a championship. How would Bradley Beal and Andrew Wiggins be on Kyrie's platform and they don't have championships?
That's fine. Kyrie, okay. So then who would be next to go out? Andrew Wiggins.
Right. No, we saying
what I'm saying. Yeah. Come on, man. Andrew Wiggins don't belong in that conversation. So when you talk about a dude, when you're talking about a dude who's been inconsistent, the Warriors were sitting back looking and said, what do we want to do? This is this man's decision. We got a culture in which we do this. But from a business perspective, if you hold out, now we have money locked up into you, major money, that now we don't get a chance to get any return on that investment for 41 games out of the season. Bro, that's a business decision.
I get that. And I don't disagree that's a business decision. But what I feel like we're missing is, guess what also was a business decision? Not giving college kids their opportunity to make money off of their likeness. That was a business decision. Like,
no, that wasn't a business decision, bro. That was not a business decision.
That wasn't business? The NCAA wasn't making money hand over foot by controlling the likeness?
They didn't make the decision based on business. They made the decision based on routine and tradition. Tradition then built into the business that they were robbing the kids. They didn't say, we're going to hold this back because they're making way too much money now, and we don't want to give them access to that money.
Whatever.
No, that was tradition. Come on, man.
What? At the end of the day, it was a tradition that they felt like added towards their business. You know, they're not. I don't agree with what you're saying, but I'm gonna give you your kudos on it. Or I'm gonna give it to you. My thing is we get to a point where we allow people, where we dictate what the business looks like. Same thing goes for Ben Simmons. It's a business decision. So it's a business decision on one person's end, and that's the conversation. Why does the business decision only have to value one side? Why we got Ben Simmons here who's making a business decision, but we want to say we're not on his side with what he's doing and how he wants to go about it. We on the owner's side who making all of the bread. So now we on the side of the people making the most money instead of looking out for the little man.
It ain't about that. If you gonna make a business decision, you got to be on the side with the leverage. You always talk about leverage, and currently Ben Simmons is saying, "I'm gonna sit the whole season out." Cool. He's willing. He has no leverage. He actually has no leverage.
All right,
he has no leverage.
You are ridiculous.
He has no leverage. He has zero leverage. They keeping that man's money. He don't have no leverage. Anytime they tell you we gonna keep your money and we would rather and you can stay at home and we just not gonna forcibly trade you because you want out. Come on, man. They playing a game of chicken. That's not leverage. And then when we talk about this vaccination piece, again, LeBron came out and said he got vaccinated because it's the best thing for his family. I call BS. I think that dude was like, look, this is my opportunity to go and get this thing in. Hey, I spend $1 million on my body. I'm probably gonna be okay. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this done. Bro, business is all on the people who got on the side of those who got the most power and leverage. And the players, as much as they got it in the NBA, they ain't got all of it. The owners still got the leverage, bro.
I don't disagree with that. But people like me and you, we come on this pod and we speak a lot about athletes and speaking up for athletes because of, as you said, the tradition that was built in when you talk about the contracts and the requirements of athletes, and understanding that this stuff ain't fair no more. Someone's getting the low end of the stick. So it takes a LeBron James, it takes a Stephen A, it takes a Shannon Sharp, it takes a Jalen, it takes people, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green, Stephen Curry, it takes people, Deion Sanders, it takes people to fight against the norm, to change the system. But if we get to a point where it's always about leverage and it's always about the person with the most money dictating the progress, then by all means, me and you, we definitely behind it. We definitely behind the 8-ball as regular dudes that's just out here in the world.
It's always that way. We're in a capitalistic society.
Okay. I saw an article, or it wasn't an article, it was just like a headline on, Instagram, the great news media of Instagram. And Nick Cannon, it highlighted how Nick Cannon had paid for 7 graduates of HBCU's college debt. And I thought that was dope. Me and you, we talk a lot. What was my man's name not too long ago who paid for like the whole senior class?
Robert Smith.
Let's not forget Robert Smith. But shout out to Nick Cannon doing it at a level that is good for him. He's a very successful man. And I like seeing that. And shout out to whomever else is doing stuff like that. And it just may be behind closed doors or whatever the case may be. But I would love to see more people of Nick Cannon's caliber, which we have plenty of them in entertainment, stepping up and putting their name on it in terms of in the media of saying, yes, I did this. We got so many challenges that go across Instagram. What was it? It wasn't one not too long ago where it was like a push-up challenge and then you'll tag people's name in it to then do the challenge themselves. I wish Nick Cannon would have tagged a couple names in the headline of like, all right, I now challenge, saying Diddy, LeBron James. Well, LeBron doing a whole lot, but you get what I'm saying. I now challenge these others very successful people, some of them who have graduated from college or from HBCUs and some of them who haven't, to do the same thing. I think it's important and we need it in this new era when you talk about HBCUs and education. What was your thoughts when you heard about it?
I mean, Nick Cannon, if you, who was it that was recently on the Breakfast Club? Was it, it was Kalani. And she talked about how Nick Cannon, because they asked her, like, were you signing Nick Cannon? She was like, nah. She was like, I had a couple deals that didn't go through with some bad companies. And Nick just was like, hey, if you get out here, I'll give you studio time. And he just started connecting me with some folks and being able to have some stuff done. He's like, he never took a percentage. He never wanted anything from me. He just wanted to see my dreams, happen. Wow. So there's a lot of people that Nick Cannon does those types of things for. So I wasn't surprised to see Nick do it.
Not at all. Have you, one of the things that I desire to do later on in life is to be able to cover some books, something simple. And I think we think so much that in order to give back or to make an impact, it has to be such an enormous amount. You got to pay a tuition or you got to pay a room and board. But something like, paying for someone's books or, a meal card here and there. What's your thoughts on ways to build up your community? Like, me and you, we talk a lot about it. But when you talk about college, specifically as someone who went to college, what do you think are ways that, the everyday person can contribute towards helping someone in their college endeavors from a philanthropy standpoint?
If you're generous, you'll find a way. And I think that's the biggest piece. If you're generous, you're going to find a way. Every little bit counts. Every step towards helping somebody be better, to alleviate the load, is going to happen. And for those who have that heart of benevolence and giving, they'll find an opportunity and ways to be able to make it happen. You'll seek those things out. For those who are selfish, and you talk about me minding hours, that's what you're going to do. Right. It legit is that simple. So
I haven't really been on social media too much the past couple weeks, and I recently saw this. Well, I saw the picture a couple times. I just hadn't really clicked into it or looked to find out more information on Gabby Petito, Petito, a young lady who body unfortunately was found, and they suspect that the boyfriend killed her. And I just did a quick Google and then went about the rest of my day. Prayers for her family, that they receive proper healing due to this tragedy. But then I don't know if it was you who sent it, but someone else sent it to me. I think a clip of a news anchor who supposedly spoke up and saying, I want to shed light on this Gabby situation, but I also want to shed light on the many stories of Black women who die and we know nothing of what took place, or we don't report the heinous things that were committed to them, by said person. And the idea or the infatuation that media has with Caucasian women in these spaces. They drive revenue, and just the unfair coverage he felt like was being had. And it sounds like he got a suspension from his news station, as they did not agree with his stance nor his idea. AT, I know you heard the same story. What's your thoughts on it?
I mean, it's very clear that they're African American women. Again, Malcolm X said it. He's that the most unprotected human being in the United States is African American woman. And so when you really look at that, when it comes to missing persons reports, there are a ton of Black women that go missing every year that never hit the headlines. But those white women that go missing hit the headlines. I mean, those are just facts. And so people who get upset about what the facts are is very similar to how I think people felt before they saw the George Floyd video. They thought the Black folks were overblowing the racism and the connection with the cops and that interaction. And they saw it and they were like, oh, this is real. So to me, I'm just going like, yeah, yep, that's exactly. He told the truth. They didn't like the truth that he told, but it's still true anyhow.
Aaron sent me, or he put on the list of topics was Will Smith and his marriage. And so I had been a little disconnected the past week from what was going on. I was like, let me go ahead and Google this. And I come find out he's got a movie coming out, as well as a memoir. Side note, probably just this past summer, I saw Gemini Man. That actually was a pretty good movie.
No, it wasn't.
You didn't like Gemini Man?
No, Gemini Man was not a good movie.
I like Gemini Man. And to find out that whole, a big portion of that double, is it double gopper?
Doppelganger.
Doppelganger. That's an old school term for you. Doppelganger was CGI. I was like, oh, this is pretty, that's pretty cool. Anywho, it was, Eric, what was the gist? Did you read the GQ article? Because it was based off a GQ article. And what was he talking about?
So I didn't read the GQ article, but again, he's promoting his book.
There we go.
He has a movie about Serena and Venus's dad.
Father, yep.
That's coming out, that he plays Mr. Williams. So again, this is part of the press tour. So part of the press tour coming out is, he talked about, which for those of us who understand relationships and can see signs at a distance, we weren't surprised when he talked about me and Jada got an open relationship. I'm like, really?
Right.
Who is it? Who's today's years old and figured that out? Duh. Right. Talk about speaking the obvious, the obvious. So, I mean, again, I think that's, selling books, promoting movies. Will Smith still is one of those people that people want to know more about, even as he's become more visible in his older years. People want to know about, the dude that had this blockbuster record that went on for so long, that went from hip hop, winning the first Grammy, to being bankrupt, to Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, to doing all the movies and marrying Jada. I mean, people want to know, right?
I didn't know Will Smith went bankrupt, so that's news to me.
What?
I didn't know he went bankrupt, but okay.
Where you been?
Hey, listen, what was the statement you just said? Anybody who isn't yesterday years old, I guess I'm yesterday's years old.
You're today's
year old. There we go. But one of the open relationships, we've talked about it. Nick Cannon constantly brings it up. Your man, Dr. Umar, Mr. I don't like interracial relationships. Looks like he might have just got married to two women, two sisters, supposedly. And now we got Will Smith finally coming out the closet saying, hey, we're in an open relationship, which, as you've already stated, has been the talk around town for quite some time. Aaron, what are your thoughts on open relationships?
If you're gonna be in an open
careful.
relationship, stay single, right? You can be single in an open relationship. I don't know why you got to involve God into this and have an open relationship.
Right.
You know, I mean, to me, that's, you know, that's next level. But again, I believe in God. I believe in covenant. And just that's, again, when I hear stuff like open relationships, if you go back to Jada's entanglement, it looked like, again, you look at Will's face, you know, he wasn't cool with her doing something, but he was cool with him doing something. And she said in that interview, when he was like, yeah, I'm gonna get you back for this one, she was like, no, you've gotten me enough. He was like, and he was like, you're right, but I still owe you one. You see what I'm saying? So it's just like, men, we don't handle that the same way that women do. And so we need to stop fronting like we okay with that. It's like, nah, dude, be thinking about another dude on his woman, he getting ready to go kill somebody. Like, I just...
And then, but on the opposite end of that, right? One man with multiple, you know, having multiple women, and they all be attached to him and only him. It's just like, how? Sometimes I would love, and I'm sure at one point in time it'll come out, the ideology of the young ladies who choose to get into those relationships. Are you introduced into that situation off top? Is there any financial gain that you're thinking about? You know, what's your background? I'm curious to know the mind of a woman, especially in 2021, where it's very, very pro women empowerment. The mind of a woman that gets into a situation like that.
Some women don't care, bro. Like, and I think that's what men always thinking like, oh, they're so emotional, they so care. Like, no, some women just don't care, bro. They just like, hey, I'm in this to get out of this what I want to get out of it, and it's that simple for them, right? Again, Nick Cannon spinning the dream. So the women like, so I'm gonna get a baby.
Yeah, but he got bread. That's a different scenario. That's a bag darn near. Like, I know we love the children. Yes, we love the children, but that's a financial come up.
Listen, so she like, hey, he ain't trying to be me, I ain't trying to be her, but he want a kid with me. Cool, let's go get it, right? Spinning the dream. You know, these other dudes, now I don't understand how these dudes that don't have nothing be spinning the dream to these women who got everything in everyday life and they go for it. Now that's something always difficult for me to understand. But, you know, he is Will Smith, right? He is Nick Cannon.
Will Smith.
You know.
Listen, people, this is Disrupted Thought. I'm Rashad Harvey. He's Aaron Thompson. We talk about it all.
Good people, we appreciate you as always. Hopefully our lives don't get in the way. You've listened to a Hot Fire episode of Disrupted Thought. We are back. Tuesday, the Hot Fire episode just dropped. You heard the voices of Aaron Thompson and Rashad Harvey. Follow us at Rashad Harvey, at AaronVic810, and at Disrupted Thought. Tell a neighbor or friend and give it away to at least 3 people. Turn on your notifications, subscribe to the pod, rate the pod. And until next time, we out of here.